Welcome to another episode of the Pitcher Perfect podcast. I'm your host, Kat Osterman, with my co-host, Holly Pierce. We are here to bring you another episode all about things pitching. This week, we are going to talk to you about scheduling, how to plan out kind of year-round pitching, when you should take a break, how many days a week. That's a question I get a lot from different people. And we are going to try to break it down different age groups because it obviously varies as we go. But Holly's got an important announcement for us before we get going about pitching today.
Pretty things. The DIY tie it yourself hair ties, 10% off with code pitcher underscore. Wait, what is it?
Underscore perfect podcast.
Yeah, pitcher perfect podcast. It's the same as our Instagram. That is your code for 10% off. And if you don't know what these are, then you weren't paying attention to the girls' hair at the World Series because everybody was wearing them. And you basically wrap it, make your own hair tie. They come in a million colors, so you can match your team. I'm obsessed with these. It's all I use for my daughter right now. But I saw them on the World Series, and all the girls, I always notice like styles and stuff, and I'm like, what are those? Those are super cute. Literally everyone had them. And I was like Googling and I couldn't find it. And then I saw them. They had a booth set up in Colorado and I bought some. And then they reached out and they wanted to give us a promo code for all of you guys. So just trust me. They're like the it product. And Kat has been wearing them for years. So she's the expert. I'm new to this. But I'm like super excited because I'm obsessed with these things.
Yeah, I obviously had red, white, and blue ones for a long time, more than with the national team, obviously with the USSSA Pride as well. A lot of people saw the hot pink one I wore in Tokyo, thought it symbolized something. It didn't really symbolize something. It was just the best hair tie I had. I had tied it to be a four loop to hold my ponytail in place because my hair is super thick and it was super humid out there. But yeah. I love them. Honestly, it takes a while for those things to be stretched out. They don't break. You don't have the I'm putting my hair in place and all of a sudden it pops. It might untie and you untie it real quick, but that's user fail, not product fail. So love.
Products.com.
Yep, DIYproducts.com. And there are plenty of different colors for you guys to choose from. But super excited that they decided to reach out and ask us to share their product. So match your uniform color. Don't match your uniform color. Multi-hair colors. Bubble. You can put it in your bubbles. I think you can actually tie it to a tie and braid it through your braid. I think I've seen people do that.
Volleyball does that a lot, right? I've seen a lot of volleyball players do that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different ways to use them. Get them, experiment. Well, we should have a contest at some point. Someone should show us what they do with their DIY hair ties in the most creative way. So we'll have to think of that for our next episode. But
we'll give you guys time to order them.
Yeah,
you guys can order them, and then we'll drop a contest.
Maybe we'll do a winter contest for around Christmas time. But super excited to bring you guys today the topic of kind of scheduling is the lack of better term. But obviously we pitch year round, we keep our timing year round. But Holly and I were talking about it. There is a time and a place for a break, both for your mental health, for your physical health, and like anything, you don't do it year round. You don't do it every day out of the year. I absolutely hate the phrase, the grind never stops, because the grind does stop. There are days off, there are weeks off, there are months off sometimes. And I love to grind, I really do. But at the same time, we have to be able to understand when is the right time to take breaks and how can you put days off even in your most peak time of year in order to be at your best physically, but also mentally and emotionally be able to rebound. So I guess, Holly, let's start pretty much kind of in the time frame we're at right now. Or let's back up. We'll back up to August. So obviously most of us finish nationals the end of July, beginning of August, depending on which organization you play with. And I am very much of the mentality that as soon as nationals over, and trust me, I get it. I get everybody and their mom is having tryouts right when you get back. I'm okay taking a break. I think I've told the story a few times. I went to my only 18U tryout as a second year 16U kid. Not having thrown for 2 weeks because we had been home from nationals. I took a break. Then, there wasn't social media. So you got word of tryouts by word of mouth. And we basically got informed that a tryout was, in 4 or 5 days. And I think I might have thrown once with my dad, the day before. And so I went and I hadn't thrown for 2 weeks. And guess what? It worked out okay because my mechanics were just good enough. I hit spots. all they wanted to see is the spin and if the ball moved. I didn't have to throw to hitters and, all these things. But I think once national ends, and if you have tryouts right away, that's fine, but then you need to take a break a week or two after tryouts, because nobody starts, at least we don't. We don't start tournaments until September. So you have the month of August to step back, shut down for a little bit, let the mind not think about softball for a little bit, go be a kid, then start to ramp up towards the end of August and into September. Because again, when you start in September, and I will say this, knowing the college recruiting schedule, you don't have to be at your peak. I don't care if a coach gets upset that you're not like in perfect form. You're ramping back up because college coaches can come out starting in October. But prior to October, September's your ramp up phase. So even then, like, you start ramping up, pitch 3 days a week, 4 days a week, every other day kind of thing, or 2 days on, 1 day off, whatever fills your cup. But any thoughts or any different thoughts, Holly, on August and September? And when I say September, we're ramping back up. We're not necessarily bringing something new into the picture, especially depending on your age. If you're getting ready to be, right now it would be 27s are on their visits, so 28s, 27s, like, people are going to start looking at you. We're not trying to add something new to the mix. Mm-hmm. We're trying to ramp up and get as close to fine-tuned as we can for October.
Yeah, spot on. I think my biggest thing always is the mental piece and the mental break in August. I think that it is essential. Like, burnout is, you and I both studied psychology in school. So I think both of us have, we value kind of that mental piece. And I think that understanding that our mind really needs to be in a good place for us to be able to perform physically at our best. It's just, burnout is a real thing. And there's mental burnout, there's mental fatigue. The summer demands a lot from players, from coaches, from parents. You're traveling, you're in championship mode where, you end that season at Alliance or PGF, wherever, and every game means something. And that really drains a lot out of you. Where every game, it's like feels like something's riding on it. And if we win, we play here. If we lose, we play. I mean, that can be very mentally exhausting. And I do think it's essential that you, like you said, go be a kid, but be something other than a softball player for a week or two. And don't think about softball. Like, go, if you have the ability to go on a family trip, be it big or small, even just having a staycation for the weekend, and, just changing, just be like not a pitcher, not a softball player for a week or two, because there is such a thing as like too much of a good thing, and it's important to miss things. It's important to give yourself that mental break and come back like inspired and then ready to work. And like, okay, yeah, I want to get back into this. And these are my goals for this upcoming year. And like, just to relight that fire. But if you want to keep that fire, you gotta, when you make a fire, it takes care, and you have to kindle it, and you have to give it attention, and you have to see when it's starting to go down or if it's getting too high and all those kinds of things. And that really is the same as our internal flame, and being really in tune with ourselves. A big part of it starts with not comparing, that everybody else is working and everybody else is, I can't take off but okay, physically they're working, but are they setting themselves up in the best place mentally? Because they may be physically still like in it, but their mind is so overworked that they're not going to be in a good place come, like you said, October. They're spent, they're exhausted, they're emotionally exhausted. You got to give yourself that balance between you got to let yourself heal physically, obviously, especially if you've been throwing a lot, and then you got to let yourself miss it. You got to come back inspired. And I think that that's really important. And it's tough when, like you said, the tryouts are getting closer to the end of nationals. But I think one place where pitchers benefit is every team needs pitching. I think pitchers probably have a better opportunity if they say, listen, I need to take some time off than an outfielder or a position player. If they're mentally spent and you're saying, I'm going to take 2 weeks off and you're an outfielder, I don't know if the sport gives as much credit or, about the mental grind to other position players as it does pitchers. So I would say use that to your benefit as a pitcher, but communicate If you're on your team already, you're not looking for a new team, communicate with your coach. Like, this is what we do. We shut down for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is in August. But have those conversations. And if you're trying out for a new team, you can communicate that as well. Like, I'm coming back from resting. I think it's important, but it is essential. Like, this is, if you want longevity in the sport, you got to take your breaks when you can. And there's only going to be a couple times a year where you're allowed to and able to do that with the timeline of the sport. August is going to be one of them. And then we'll go into what December allows us and the opportunities December allows us. But you got to take them when you can, because the way that the sport is structured, opportunities are few and far between. So if you don't take advantage of them when you can, you're likely not going to, all of a sudden you're going to be burnt out. And now your team's ramping up and it's like, what do I do? I can't take off now,
Yeah. Well, I think it's all about, like you said, it's about communication. And I know my dad communicated with people when I was taking off or when I was just coming back. I think we told them when I tried out, like, hey, she's taken off since nationals, because we weren't prepared. It was a tryout we wanted to go to, but we weren't prepared for the date until it was right upon us and someone told us when it was. So, but I think too, and to your point, like, you physically have to heal, but you also physically have to let your body decompress. And I think of it, this last summer I was go, 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 and I'm not even playing. I was general managing and calling pitches, right? And as soon as AUSL finished and Indiana finished with the Bombers, we went to Iceland like 3 days later for 10 days and then came home. And I had most of the month of August to do nothing. Like, I was just at home with JC, whatever. And like, I think your point of missing it is valid. Like, you need to let yourself know, one, that there is life without it. You are a softball player. Softball is not life. There's more to your life. When, softball sucks, your life does not suck. Just what you're doing right now sucks, kind of thing. And I got to the point in August that, I don't know that I was necessarily missing it, but once I finally got back out there, I was like, oh, I like doing this. Like, I forgot how much I love it, Don't love getting rained on and soaked and all the things that come with that, but, loved being out there on the field. And I don't work with the I call them the littles. I don't work with the 8, 10s, 12s much. And so it was fun to be on the field with them. And you want to be able to continue to have that joy. And you have that joy when you step away for a little bit and then come back to it. And so I think that's a valid point. Moving on, obviously, September, October, November, big recruiting times, 14, 16s, 18s. Are in the heat of things. I approached fall, at least as a pitcher. Yes, it was important because you're showcasing, especially if you're in those age groups that the colleges are starting to, turn their eyes to you. Showcasing, but still not. I still wasn't grinding as hard as I did come high school and summer. So while I'm working, yes. For me personally, I also played basketball. So you talk about November comes around, basketball season starts to come into play. And then we'll talk about December, January-ish in a little bit. But I used it like I pitched, but I also conditioned. I did not lift weights prior to going to college. That was just my dad's thing. I was still growing. If you guys saw pictures, I look like Bambi, super thin, probably like every bone could break if something fell on me. And he just didn't want me to lift until I was under the supervision of somebody who knew what they were doing. And I should backtrack. I lifted after high school softball was done my senior year because our athletic trainer actually had worked in that realm. So he worked out with me. But still, that's basically going off to college. So I use the fall as, I say developmental, and I said not learning a new skill, but like, what else can I do that can enhance me being physically fit, me being in shape to pitch? And so it was pitching, it was running. Sometimes I'd run before I pitched. Sometimes I'd run after I pitched. Sometimes we would just do weighted ball drills, like snaps to like strengthen my forearm. My dad was old school. We had the broom handle with the hole and I rolled that dumbbell up and rolled that dumbbell down. Yeah. I did some things. So I guess you could say I did weights if you count that, the little broomstick thing, rice buckets. We did other things that enhanced my pitching, but I think in the fall we were still probably if we're talking about pitching practice, maybe 3 days a week, because then obviously you're playing Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I wasn't harping into the 4 or 5 days of practice a week yet, because I still don't think it's necessary. You need to be able to maintain and push the envelope a little bit. And I think you can do that in 3 or 4 days of practice a week. So for me, and no matter what age you are, and I would say probably the littles because you're still trying to handle, like you're trying to nail down mechanics of your fastball changeup, I would say 4 days a week probably. If you're playing Saturday, Sunday. If you're playing Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and she's going to pitch all 3 days, then yes, let's go to 3 days a week. But again, what else can you do that can help enhance the pitching? Is it, doing dry pitches in a mirror? Is it throwing socks? Is it, like we said, rice buckets or some intervals or other things that they can do as well? And I think the biggest thing, and we can talk about this more too as we get into, how many days a week you practice, is every workout does not have to be an hour plus.
Yeah,
An
absolutely.
hour seems to kind of be the thing for pitching, which is fine. I get it. It's because you warm up and you throw each pitch, whatever. But like there are days where if you just have 20 minutes, go get 20 minutes of quality work in. And if that means you're do spins, K drill, and only 15 pitches off the mound, that's fine. Just make sure those 15 pitches have some focus.
Right.
I think that's the other
Yeah,
thing that people fall into is like everything is this heavy workout. And I'm like, guys, there's such things as medium and light workouts.
yeah, you don't have to throw every pitch every workout. I mean, you can split it. So, on Monday you're just throwing like you're sequencing two different pitches. On Tuesday you're sequencing two other pitches. But you're not throwing every pitch every day. Like you don't need to have those workouts where you're working on everything. Like split it. It's kind of like going into the gym. I've got leg day, I've got upper body day, you're not working every body part every time you go to the gym. It's the same thing with pitching. Like have it be rise ball changeup day. Tomorrow I'm going to work curve and drop, whatever. Wednesday I'm just going to throw a long toss and do spins. But break up your workouts. And if you're the type of person that likes structure, like put it on a calendar and say like, all right, this is the day I'm going to get these two pitches in. This is the day I'm going to get these two pitches in. This is the day I'm going to get spins in. This is the day I'm going to work whatever. But make it fun. Make it a little schedule for you so that you're going to knock those things out. So in the big picture, you've worked on everything, but you're not overworking your body every day.
Right. I think break it up. At the same time, you can do different types of workouts. As we said, there's short workouts, there's long workouts. I think if you pitch on the weekend, Monday should be off. Like if you pitch Saturday, Sunday. Now, if you pitch on Saturday and you don't pitch Sunday, Sunday's obviously your off day. But if you pitch on Saturday and Sunday, Monday's your off day to let yourself regroup. And again, that's okay. I think some people think like a day off means they're not working hard enough, and that's just not the case.
That's another, what did you say? The grind never stops. Another one that irks me is no days off. Like, yes,
Yes, there
days
are
off.
days off. Mentally, emotionally, physically, you need days off. You want to talk about like whole nother tangent, but you want to talk about where, mental health goes and physical body breakdown and, getting sick and things like that. Like you have to stop sometimes. And especially, I will say, especially if you're in a season of softball that's hard, pitching gets hard. There will be a season that you will not be as good as you want to be, and it'll mentally take its toll. But when you have the day off, like you don't, I say don't think about it, but you don't dwell on it. You do other things, allow yourself. We have all these downfalls, I guess, and mental health is a real thing, but at the same time, give yourself the avenue to not think about it, to go do other things, to try to, enhance other aspects of your life to where you realize that, this crappy part of pitching right now is not that big a deal.
Well, it's preventative too, because, they say, what do they say? Like when, with dehydration, like once you're thirsty, like you're already dehydrated basically. So the goal is to drink water throughout the day so you don't get to that point. I think that is a big thing with mental health, like mental exhaustion and burnout, is that you don't want to wait until you're already like in a bad place to then take your
Right.
break and think about mental health. Like it's maintenance, and really is preventative, like forcing yourself, even if you're not feeling burnt out, but you have like in August, maybe I'm not feeling burnt out, but I have those 2 weeks off, like forcing yourself because you're preventing yourself later down the line. So taking care of your mental health isn't waiting for you to be in a tough spot where now all of a sudden you're at a breaking point and you have to have it. It's like give yourself those things, keep in check with yourself, schedule, manage yourself and your schedule to a point that you hopefully don't even get to that point.
Right. Well, so I mean, let's go talking about this and we'll get back to the rest of our schedule so we stay on time. But thinking of it, so I started playing when I was 11. So we started with a travel ball team when I was 11 and a half, 12, something like that. So from basically 12 until 2000, I didn't have a summer, like off. I played softball. So from age 12 to 21. So what is that? 9 summers, 9 straight summers. I didn't have a summer off. And that includes college because while my college teammates went on break, I went and played with the national team. So I always had something during the summer. I have more people ask, did you ever feel burnout? And the only time I felt burnout was after 2008 was over. Or excuse me, yeah, 2008 was over. Because I came home and I didn't have something I had to get ready for, and I let myself decompress, but I didn't want to. And you can back up to 2004 even. And after I came home and I went back to school, my coach told me I could have a week off. And I looked at her and said, a week? Like, I just trained for 9 months straight with the national team, and you're gonna give me a week. Now, granted, I ended up getting more than a week because they did try to implement me in a week or a week and a half in. There was no motivation. But I got to that spot because we had been go, 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 and the grind did stop. We had days off. We had weeks where we got to go home, and we still had to obviously train, and I kept pitching to keep in shape or whatever. But there was also an end goal. So 9 months for the end goal of a gold medal was worth it, right? But I think leading up to '04 and that 9 month grind, I didn't get burnout because my dad put in times, and as we're talking about times to take off, because I played basketball. And when I played basketball, pitching took a back seat. Not in the essence that it wasn't in my schedule. It was in my schedule. But basketball was the priority, and we made sure we fit pitching in where it could fit in. And so I think athletes and pitchers need to understand there is a time period in the year, and we're getting ready to get there, so this leads right into it, where yes, you still pitch, but it does not have to be the priority. It really doesn't. It can take a back seat for a couple weeks to something else, whether it's another sport, whether it is a hobby, whether it is just, hey, you know what? I'm going to pitch every other day, or I'm going to make sure I just pitch 3 times a week. More power to you. And I think that time of the year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Holly, is as soon as Thanksgiving hits, there's no more softball. I see so many tournaments in December still, and I understand the non-D1s can be out recruiting, and there are athletes that need to still be recruited during that time, and that's fine. If you're one of those, then obviously you go play. But if I'm a younger athlete at that point in time, transition out of tournaments and go into practice. You can practice once or twice a week if you need to. And now if I'm a pitcher, from Thanksgiving until New Year's, so you got about 6 weeks that you can shut down. You can shut down for 3 and then work back in minimally. But you have a 6 week window now that you can totally manipulate to be your what better way? I mean, not you out there in SoCal where it's all 75 and sunny all the time, but the rest of the world it gets cold during those months.
We get like
So
2 or 3 cold days a year, maybe.
so most people, why don't we shut down when it's cold? And then the next 3 weeks you find a gym to go in every other day or 3 times a week or something like that. And I think that's the time where you shut down. Then when you come back, you work on mechanics. And then if you want, especially my older kids, if you want to start working on something new, you work on it the second half of December into January, and you can even work on it into high school season. I have nothing against high school softball. I played it. My team was not very good. We were brand new high school. My first 2 years, there were only about 2 of us that had played travel ball. Thankfully, my junior year, we had a couple move in, or a couple that came in that had played, so we were a little better. But my dad told me, go learn how to be a good teammate, go have fun, and if we start working on a new pitch, guess what? You can throw it in high school, because it doesn't matter when it comes to recruiting. Like, no one's going to be like, oh, she lost this game to so-and-so, and she threw this pitch, and now why did she do that? Like, they're not paying that much attention because colleges are playing 56 games in the same time you're playing high school,
Right.
with the exception of the few states that play during the fall.
Yeah.
They're not really looking. I tell people all the time, you get recruited in travel ball, they write your bio on your high school accomplishments.
I think to our coaches out there, I would hope to inspire you to think about taking December off and not playing. Our team, after Thanksgiving, we don't play at all. We don't play tournaments, nothing. But to Kat's point, yeah, I would say, it makes it tough on the pitchers to take off when their team's playing because you need them, obviously. So then they're playing on weekends. But to our coaches that are listening, really consider taking December off and not playing if you're a coach that does play in those tournaments, and really think about the big picture. Think about for yourself. I know as a coach, not even as a player, as a coach, I don't want to play in December. And I'm going to bet you probably don't too. Most of our coaches out there, how many times do you wish you had a weekend off? Like, do it. You're in charge. You do the schedule. Take the weekend off. Like, and tell your parents why. Tell them that it's important so they understand. But I'm going to put that out there. I hope that if we can inspire one or two coaches that are listening to this to not schedule tournaments for your team in December. You don't need it. You don't have to.
And you can practice once a week and still get your team together and work on skills. And, pitchers don't have to throw. They can, gnarly concept, they can work on defense, where they go during cuts and relays, where they go on throws from the outfield. I was yelling for pitchers to back up this weekend. There's other ways to incorporate them into practice. And really, when you're young, they're still hitting it for themselves too. So there's a whole nother aspect of the game that they can get fulfilled in. But December to January, really Thanksgiving to January to me is the time that you can shut down. The second half of that, if you work back into it, then yes, January to me is where you start you work hard on something new. As soon as the new year rolls around, you can get back into it. But now if I'm learning a new pitch, that's where I'm harping on it. And then obviously if you're young, if you're non-high school, you can take that into your spring season, or you don't take it into games and you just continue working on it in practice. And then as soon as you feel comfortable with it, guess what? You got some time in the spring to be able to implement it. And then summer comes, and that's really when everything gets competitive and qualifiers and whatnot. And now we ramp up. So I think too, for our high schoolers, you get to February, obviously your go time. And now it's the grind, right? So we are playing softball or practicing 5-6 days a week. You need to figure out where is your at least one day off. If it can fit in, is there a second day off? If there's not a second day off, where is your light day? Where's your light day pitching where maybe you just do spins, or maybe you do spins in like 5 of each pitch and shut it down? There's days in there where that needs to be in your schedule. So that way this grind stops. So while you keep your physical timing, because you have a game on Thursday and then you have another game Friday, Saturday, like whatever it is, this grind can stop on a light day. A light day is super easy. And you'll grind through the end of May for the most part. And Holly, you and I were talking about it offline, is most of them, if you go far into your playoffs, you go straight from playoffs into travel ball. If you don't, take a week. If you don't, I would definitely say take a week to let yourself decompress. And most of the time I think our state tournament here in Texas ends. We technically have a tournament within the state that most people play in. But if we have someone that's in the state championship, we usually let them take a week off. Like they don't come to that tournament, or if they do, they don't play. Because I think it's important, again, you just grind. We're on the grind for a purpose, and you need to kind of decompress whether you fulfilled that purpose or not. Decompress, reset, because a new purpose is about to start. And so I think the hard part is from February till the end of July is the hardest grind if you are a high school pitcher. So in there, you need to figure out, and like I just said, when we start in the end of May, beginning of June, most of those tournaments aren't counting towards Alliance, or, there's a warm-up tournament that everyone's just kind of playing in.
Right.
That week, maybe you don't grind it out. Maybe you do 2 or 3 practices that are just nice and easy, and you go play in the tournament. And if you do great, great. And if you do just good, then good. And you're going to start grinding the next week.
Coaches aren't out there recruiting till after the World Series, really.
Again, I think that's the other important piece to me, Holly, is like people understand the recruiting windows, when people can and can't be out. And it doesn't mean don't play when they're not out, but at the same time, that's when you can implement what you need in order to step back and make sure you're at your best.
I think a big thing too, that window during the spring, during high school season, that's going to be a good time too to really so look forward into summer and what the summer is going to demand of your body and your endurance and your ability to push through soreness and push, we call it championship season. So summer we call championship season, right? And that's when pitchers are going to throw like back to back to back to back. We have the longer tournaments, Colorado, you're with Patriot games at the front of Colorado and our fireworks tournament at the end. That's like 10 days of like basically games that mean something. And so we've got kids going to cryo, and we're trying to manage the soreness, but they're getting up, and we have games that end late and start early, and it's like it's a physical grind, right? Mental too, but physically, that's the demanding part of the season where we're asking athletes to push through it, push through your soreness, go do what you got to do, go to cryo, whatever, but I need you tomorrow. And so now rewind to the spring. So knowing that that's what the summer's likely going to look like, I got to do everything I can to get my body in good physical condition to be able to do what's going to be asked of that demanding part of the summer. So that's really the time to think about if you're going to implement like conditioning program or weight training, whatever it is. But you don't want to start that in June. You don't want to start that in May. It's too late. So December, January, or even the fall, but making sure that, look, the summer, especially if you're on a team where you're like the P1 and you're going to get a lot of innings in the summer, it's going to demand a lot of me. It's going to demand a lot of me in the heat, back-to-back days, long tournaments, and I'm going to prep my body physically, not just pitching-wise, but my body physically to be able to recover quickly and to push through the physical things that are going to be asked of what you need to do as the P1. But the spring's not a time to push through that. If you're sore, take some time off. The spring is not a time to worry about pitching games when you're sore that don't mean anything. I think that's another thing is like, if a game doesn't mean anything, it's like a warm-up game into high school that it's just a practice game, whatever, and you're sore, tell your coach, don't pitch. Like those aren't the days to push through it. The days to push through it are in summer. So being smart about what the season as a whole looks like, so when's my time, like we said, to rest physically, mentally, when's my time to condition and get my body ready for the marathon I'm going to have to do in June, and just looking at it like a big picture and then planning accordingly. But it really does also take communication with your coach, because I think a lot of times, especially if you're the P1, a lot's going to be asked of you. And if you know that a game really doesn't mean a whole lot and you're overworked, and you know that, okay, maybe in the high school season you've pitched every game and now you're about to play a team that's not great and the game really doesn't mean anything, maybe you've already clinched, whatever, let that game go to somebody else. Communicate that with your coach. Like that's a game to take off. Coach, like, I'm feeling a little worn down. If you have somebody else that can throw, like, I think this would be a good opportunity. But communication is a big thing. But it really is about looking at the season as a whole, like the big picture of it, and then like splicing it up into what the different portions of that look like, and what you should be doing during those different seasons within the bigger season.
I think the big thing is communication, as you said. Like a lot of times, like I was the only pitcher in high school for the first 2 years. Like we didn't have another arm, but we had someone who was throwing on JV, and we looked, and I always tell our kids, because I don't know how it is in California and Texas, the first like 4 or 5 weeks, they play tournaments. They'll play like a random midweek game, and then they'll go play a tournament where they play 4, 5, 6 games, right? But those games don't do anything for their playoff picture, because the only thing that matters in playoffs is their district finish. So while it gets you ready for district, it doesn't count on anything except for probably your max preps ranking. Right? So wherever you rank nationally in across the country, which I don't know how you even do that. Right. Kind of like an RPI. But I'm like, at the same time, like, how are you doing that? We don't even cross play in high school in different states. So you're ranking this team over here because they're undefeated, but this team over here with 3 losses in California might actually be better, but we wouldn't know. So I tell my pitchers all the time, I'm like, if you are the only pitcher, you really need to look at the schedule and tell your coach, this game, you need to find someone else to pitch. If you plan on me pitching these other games that are against better competition or whatever, then you need to find someone else to pitch, because there's no reason to be throwing 6 games in a weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, for a high school tournament when it's not helping you guys for playoffs.
Right.
It's not like it doesn't count like to be, now if you get in a district and you have to pitch every district game, that's a little less taxing here in Texas because it's on Tuesday and Fridays. So you have 2 days in between to recover, right? And so it's about communication, and obviously, yes, then when you get to playoffs, you're going to throw. You're going to throw every game if you're the one and there's not another one, whatever. But, I do think, and, I know you and I do it. We look at our schedules when we get, tournament schedules, and you look in the round robin games or whatever, the pool play games, like you look and map it out. So you're not overextending pitchers. You don't use the same pitcher for 3 pool play games.
That's a really,
I don't either.
really good point for high school coaches out there, is yeah, look at it kind of the same. And I coached high school for 13 years too. So I get that too. And we were very competitive. You know, we won a CIF national championship. Like, I get it. Like, so I'm not pro travel or pro high school, one or the other. I get it. But just the same way, that's a perfect comparison. Just the same way as in travel ball, we would look at a round robin and think like, okay, who can I pitch where, who, whatever. Look at your high school season like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smart.
No, I think I'm not, and with this scheduling, I'm not saying one is definitely more important than the other. They're both important. I support playing both because high school, if you're not playing during high school season, what are you doing? You're missing out on game reps. You're missing out on game IQ. As I said, not knowing what my high school team was going to look like, my dad was like, "You're going to go play. You're going to have fun, first of all, because it's high school. Like, go have fun. No one's recruiting from it, and at the same time, learn how to be a good teammate." Not that I was a terrible one, but just like in a different atmosphere, learn how to be a good teammate. And if your team's going to struggle, it's going to be a different challenge to be a good teammate. And so I'm a proponent for both, but I think communication's huge. But I think if there's one thing I can leave parents and kids with this episode is look at the areas where you're not playing and find at least 2 or 3 weeks at a time where you can take off. I know there was a period of time that my dad, it was 6 weeks, we shut down. And I want to say it was Thanksgiving through December. I could be wrong, and I could be making up 6 weeks, but it was over 3, that one much I know, because occasionally I would itch to throw, and he would say no. Allow your kid to be a kid a little bit, but find the times in there, because burnout is real, and I think it comes from the philosophy of no days off and, you know, the grind never stops and all these things. You can be elite. You can train to accomplish a very high goal and still have days off, weeks off, time periods off, and do other things. And I think that is so important for kids. So parents, help your kid find the time where they need to take off. Don't wait for them to come and say that they're at a point where they need to take off, because as you mentioned, Holly, then it's not too late. They can still recover from it, but like now they're already in a hole that you could have possibly avoided if you had found days and weeks in there where they could take a break and not have to be on the grind all the time. So as always, pitchers, if you guys have questions, you can drop them in our DMs, comments, whatever. We love to get questions from you guys. But Holly's reminding me to plug one more time our lovely partners with Tie It Yourself. Go get your hair ties. We are gonna put together some type of competition and see how creative you guys can get with Tie It Yourself. Code is pitcher_perfect_podcast. Get yourself 10% off. As always, thank you for listening. Share with your fellow pitchers, fellow pitcher parents. Like, subscribe, all the things. We appreciate you guys tuning in. This is truly our passion project, and if you guys haven't figured out, we pretty much get on here and just start having a conversation. Sometimes it's semi-scripted, most of the time it's not scripted. But we've enjoyed talking to you guys again for another episode, and continue to tune in, and we will be dropping more episodes this fall.
It's not stopping.
Why won't it
Does it
stop?
say it's still recording on yours end?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hitting stop and nothing's happening.
No, they can't just like, what if I mark? Okay, I clipped a marker at 43:22, which is way past I don't have a way to stop it. I can leave.
Yeah, I'm doing end session for all. Should I just do end session for all?
Yeah, I think it should bank it still because we recorded. Okay. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye.